Okay, picture this. The world's most critical shipping lane, the Suez Canal, suddenly gets a new, completely unexpected rival. An icy rival. Well, that's exactly the story we're digging into today. A real tale of two passages, where melting ice at the top of the planet is literally redrawing the map of global trade. Let's dive in.
Let's start with a number. $9.6 billion.
And no, that wasn't a one-time thing. That was the estimated cost per day. That's the financial hit global trade took for every single day one of its most important shipping routes was completely blocked. Yeah, I'm sure you remember this. It all goes back to 2021, when that one massive container ship, the Ever Given, got itself stuck sideways in the Suez Canal. For an entire week, the whole world watched as it became this perfect, almost comical symbol of just how fragile our global supply chain really is. So let's start right there. We're going to talk about this lifeline, the Suez Canal, a route that's been around forever but is also, as we saw, incredibly vulnerable. I mean, it is really hard to overstate just how important the Suez Canal is. It's not just some convenient shortcut. It's a fundamental artery of the entire world economy. Just think about these numbers. It handles about 12% of all global trade. And for container ships, that number jumps to a massive 30%. It's also vital for oil and gas. And for Egypt, it's a huge source of income, an absolute economic cornerstone. Right, so the real lesson from that whole Ever Given mess wasn't just that one ship got stuck. It was a symptom of a much bigger issue. This quote really nails it. Our massive over-reliance on this one single passage makes the whole global supply chain dangerously fragile. But what if there was another way, an alternative? And this is where our story takes a really fascinating turn, to a totally unforeseen consequence of climate change, the great opening of the Arctic. And look, this isn't some far-off prediction. It's happening right now. The data is crystal clear. There's been a dramatic, undeniable decline in Arctic sea ice. And as that ice melts away, huge stretches of ocean that have been frozen solid for ages are, well, they're opening up. And it's happening so much faster than you'd think. There's this phenomenon called Arctic amplification, which basically means the Arctic isn't just warming up. It's warming up 4 times faster than the rest of the world. That's just accelerating the whole process and turning this idea of new sea routes from a maybe someday thing into a happening very soon reality. So, this is what sets up the central conflict of our story, right? A tale of two passages. You've got the old, established way through the Suez Canal versus this brand new, emerging, and frankly, very uncertain path through the Arctic. This chart gives us a really fantastic high-level view. So for the Arctic, what's its biggest strength? Simple. It's a shorter trip, but it comes with some massive weaknesses. We're talking brutal conditions and pretty much zero infrastructure. The Suez is basically the mirror image. Its strength is that it's this well-oiled machine, but its weakness? That one single point of failure we've already talked about. Okay, let's just focus on that one key advantage for the Arctic for a second. A route that's up to 40% shorter between Asia and Europe, that is an absolute game changer. I mean, we are talking about huge savings on fuel, on time, on crew pay, everything. In an industry where every single day at sea costs a fortune, you can see why that's such a powerful draw. But, and this is a big bite, this is where the gamble really comes into play. The Arctic is no walk in the park. First off, insurance companies have almost no data, so your premiums, sky high. Then you've got the conditions themselves. They're brutal and totally unpredictable. If something goes wrong out there, you are pretty much on your own. There's basically no search and rescue. Oh, and you can't just send any old ship up there. You need these special, super expensive ice-class vessels with crews who know exactly what they're doing. So you've got these high risks, but also these incredibly high rewards. And that's creating what people are starting to call a new great game, a geopolitical chess match being played out on thinning ice. The conversation is quickly shifting from how do we do this to who gets to control this? And the whole disagreement really comes down to two legal definitions. On one side, you've got Canada and Russia. They argue that these new passages are their internal waters. Think of it like a lake inside their country. That would give them total control. But then you have the United States, which says, no way, these are international straits. And that would mean freedom of passage for everyone, no permission needed. It's a massive difference with huge implications. And this is where you can see the major powers drawing their lines in the ice. You've got Russia, who is backing up its claim to the Northern Sea Route with military muscle. You have Canada, asserting its sovereignty over the Northwest Passage, pointing to its historic use by the Inuit. Then there's the US, pushing back against both of them, demanding free passage for all. And then there's China, which has cleverly declared itself a near-Arctic state and is trying to build what it calls a polar Silk Road. But with all this talk of geopolitics and shipping lanes, there's a crucial group we can't forget: the people who are actually at the center of all this. For the Inuit, this isn't just some strategic waterway on a map. It's their homeland, Inuit Nunavut. They've lived on and used these lands and waters for thousands of years. Their rights and their voice are an absolutely central and way too often overlooked part of this story.
So where does all this leave us? Well, it leads us to a future that's really complex and totally uncharted. There are just no easy answers here for what comes next in the Arctic.
You see, the melting of the Arctic isn't some simple story with a clear hero and villain. It's not a straightforward win or loss. On one hand, it creates these immense economic opportunities, but on the other, it brings unprecedented risks. Risks to a super fragile environment, risks to global security, and, of course, risks to the people who call this incredible region home.
And that leaves us with the big final question, doesn't it? The opening of the Arctic is forcing all these powerful nations to face each other in a brand new arena. So, as this new ocean emerges from the ice, what will it be? Will it become a path to global cooperation, a way for us to figure things out together? Or is it just going to be the next great battlefield for conflict? The story is still being written.